A little bit about myself, how I got here. I've had 10 brain injuries myself, starting when I was 3 years old. The last was when I was 34. But those first 9 all were between 3 and 19 years old. The first 5 were 10 years and younger. And so the only time I went to see a doctor for any of them was when I had to get stitches in my head one time. The other times I didn't even tell, other than when I was 3 and my uncle dropped me in the sink. I didn't tell my parents because, one, I was embarrassed because it was typically foolish behavior that created this, and the other was I didn't want to get in trouble for doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. And so I had all these injuries that had this significant impact on my life. I could see where they manifested in my life. I started drinking and drugging when I was 12 years old, full-blown alcoholic by the time I was 13. Played football with and without a helmet from 10 till probably 16 years old. And so my life took a left turn, is the way I think of it, for my family, right? So I had, I'm one of 6 kids. They all got out of high school, went into college and onto their lives, and me, I barely got out of high school. I was very rebellious. I had memory issues. I had trouble regulating my emotions. And so all of this was never really diagnosed or even looked at or even considered that it was possibly from, wow, 3 minutes, that it was possibly from brain injury. So fast forward, I've been working at the homeless shelter up in Boulder for 19 years now. And I got involved with this brain injury community, and BACT funded this thing, and we ended up with this little organization of professionals, survivors, and stakeholders. And so we ended up, I talked to one of the professionals, and he said, given your history, there's no doubt you have a history of brain injury. So now here I am, 35 years old. It's the first time anybody even said to me they possibly had brain injuries. And then I ran into a friend of mine, and I found out he had brain injury, and we started working together. We found this article. I've got a copy that I can leave with you from, Lisa Brenner's the chief author, and then Jeannie Dice-Lewis, who's also from the area, is another author on it, about the impact of pediatric traumatic brain injury, and then how that can affect your adult life. And so the first thing I think is awareness, and I don't have time to talk about that, but I think that it goes underreported for both pediatric and adult head injuries when you're in the emergency room. But also the difference between the pediatric traumatic brain injury and an injury as an adult is, as an adult you have a life, you have a significant event, and then your life is different. You can grieve the loss. As a child who has brain injury, you don't get that opportunity. Your life takes this turn, and then you find yourself suddenly, like myself, wondering how the heck did I get here? And so there's nothing to grieve. When we were taught, we came up with a little 8-week, we finally found a therapist that would work with us, and we created this 8-week group, and we thought about calling it, I Could Have Been a Contender group, because you don't know, right? You don't know who you could have been. And so my friend Ben and I, who may or may not be able to call in later, he's trying, but we talked to therapists, we talked to professors, we talked to doctors, and they all said the same thing. Great idea, love what you're doing, we treat people where they're at now. How they got here isn't significant to us, and that is all doctor-centered, if you ask me, treatment-centered. Client-centered is looking at, I can't tell you, when we went through that, I went through this 8-week class, I was like 3 years ago now, I was 31 years sober, been in therapy 5 different times, all with positive outcomes. And this had as much or more impact on me in my life than any of the other treatments that I've gone through. It was that profound to understand, finally understand how I got from here to there, and why I was the way I was when I was a child, and why I had the problems I had when I was a child. And so I would, offer up this article. You can go ahead and read it. I've got another one. They're finding a lot of, I'm sure you all know this, but 50 to 90% of people that are incarcerated are reporting brain injuries. Is that because it's going undiagnosed and this maladaptive behavior is leading to this criminal behavior? I mean, the only reason I didn't end up in jail or prison is dumb luck. I got to be honest with you. It wasn't any, great, mastermind machinations on my part. And so, I've been lucky in that sense, is I've found a really good life, and I like what I do for a living. Like I said, I've been at the shelter for 19 years. And, but this is still something that, you know, Ben and I have been working on for over 10 years now. And, you know, we've got a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor yesterday, which was a miracle unto itself. Ben pulled that out of his hat somehow. Still don't know how. And she recommended, you know, you guys to me today. So I dropped everything this afternoon and came down to talk to you guys in hopes that, you know, we get, you know, one more, you know, shot at somebody hearing us and doing something about this. So it looks like I've got 5 seconds left. And so what I want to say is, if there's a whole lot more to be said, and if you have any desire, please contact me. I will leave my contact as well. And then Ben and I will make time to come talk to anybody, pretty much anywhere, anytime. That's how passionate we are about this. It's been a long journey. Yes, please.
So, Tim, thank you for sharing your story. Can you forward us the statistics of the 50 to 90% and corrections are reporting brain injuries and the source of that? Because that's
yeah, I can. I've got in this article from Kim Gorgons. She's got it at 96%, and the national statistics show 67 to 80% of inmates. And I can leave that with you as well. She's doing a lot of good work apparently in the jail. So I'm also connected with the Boulder County Community Reentry Council up there. And the governor, I don't know why I didn't think of this myself, but she said, why don't you approach Sheriff Pele around this? And since I've got that connection with the Reentry Council and a lot of the service providers in the jail, I mean, they're putting a lot of money right into incarceration right now, trying to, it's more progressive, right? It's more compassionate, coming from the social justice perspective as opposed to punitive, right? So, and that's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down in here. So yeah, again, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate what you're doing. To me, like I said, it's important to hear it from our side. You get the doctor's side, you get the therapist side, but you need to hear it from the client side, because we're the ones that are really having to deal with the issues. So that's it. Thank you so much.